Now, the problem here is number one, that's going to be viewed as it's very bullish for risk assets in the
Yeah.
near term until we slip into a recession and the market and all the investors out there, they look around and they say, okay, Fed, we're in a recession. Come get us out of this now. And the
Hmm.
Fed's going to say, well, it's not a depression yet. So we're not going to, with inflation still at 4, 5, 6%, we are not going to print, and that's going to freak the markets out. The market
Yeah.
is so addicted to knowing that the Fed is like the parents, right? And they have this little kid, and they every the kid falls, and the parents kind of just catch them. But at some point, the Fed is going to be hand tied here, handcuffed, and I think that point is coming late this year, early next year. Today is definitely on a technical basis not a great situation. Now, I will give Bitcoin credit, right? We've seen the dollar continue to ratchet up day after day after day, and Bitcoin was just going sideways. So you could actually say, okay, Bitcoin was holding up. But I look at today's up move in the dollar as potentially the straw that broke the camel's back with Bitcoin. It's just so much pressure from a rising dollar and risk assets. I mean, we've seen the stock market rolling over, and Bitcoin for the last 10 days or so has just gone sideways. So it was
Yeah.
almost inevitable if the dollar was going to keep going up, that at some point we were going to break down here. You could see a nasty red candle here. Now
Yeah.
we do have potential support coming in around 17.5. That's going to be a
Hmm.
big level. That's the June low. But my guess is that could be where we're headed at this point. But again, I was optimistic the last few days, looking at Bitcoin holding up and holding up for multiple days. And today's kind of like the wind coming out of the sails, if you will. So I do think there's a chance of a flush, and I think the key here is understanding there's a few different things that are mixing. Now, if we take out the 17.5-ish low here, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of support until you get down to 13 to 12,000, which is my high-end target for Bitcoin. And the kicker
Right.
here is we have to remember there's still 150,000 Bitcoin, I think, that from Mount Gox that
Sure.
could be unloaded at any one time. That's a lot of Bitcoin, especially when you're at these lower prices for pressure. In addition, I think you have to be very aware that at some point we're going to get news from the judge in the Ripple case. How is Gary Gensler going to say that all these other coins are securities? What rules do they have to kind of abide by? And I think all of these combined with a strong dollar leave Bitcoin and other cryptos very vulnerable to a kind of one of those bigger quick flushes that could take us down to that level. So I do think that level is a huge bounce opportunity. I don't know if we'll get there before we get down to, we get the Fed coming in here in late September, but I think it is a possibility. So I think there's still that potential that you could see some upside in Ethereum in the near term. And interestingly enough, the chart has a potential breakout here just above this downsloping trend line. So you can see that even, and by the way, this is really interesting because what we've seen in Bitcoin is that the low from basically 10 days ago was already breached. But you can
Hmm.
clearly see that Ethereum has actually moved above this trend line and is well off of these lows. So to me, I look at that as a short-term relative strength indicator versus Bitcoin specifically. So I think that again, there's a lot of hype. I think what Ethereum is doing is awesome. I think it's the right move here. And I think ultimately that in the near term, you could see some price pressure to the upside, maybe even retesting the near highs here of 2000 on Ethereum. But again, I would just caution and say that depending on the regulation we find out about, that would be a concern. That would be a risk factor that you'd want to be a little careful over the next multiple months holding on to a ton of Ethereum. And again, I'm hopeful that that happens because I think crypto has taken so many punches over the
Yeah.
last few months. I mean, even what happened with Michael Saylor and the taxes and all that stuff. It's just one more thing that makes people kind of like, oh, what's this crypto? Is it kind of shady? What's going on? So I'm really hopeful this goes smoothly. If it does, you get a short-term relief rally to the upside. Maybe that 2000 handle would be where it goes. In fact, the 200 moving average is just above that double top high there. So that would also be a general target. Then after that, I think eyes turn back to the general crypto market, to regulation, and to
Yeah.
overall risk assets. And I think that's where it could be. So you could get this short-term relief, but then just be careful beyond that if the whole risk market starts to come in. If you look at the permeation in crypto of Ethereum and how many things are built on it, I mean, it's essentially the Apple of crypto. Now, I think you look at Bitcoin, and to me, I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is gold, and now Apple or Microsoft would be Ethereum. And I do think there's
Yeah.
a lot of upside here down the line. So I am optimistic that it does have a shot of it.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel.
This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dan.